So hi there, my name's Cherie Forsyth and I'm a peak performance coach. And welcome my guest today. We're doing a series of videos with a professional cyclist, Cherie Redecker. As always, Cherie, welcome.
Hi, Cherie. Thank you so much. I'm really excited for today's interview.
Yeah, today we're talking about something which we both believe is very powerful. And so we're talking about the power of believing in yourself. So obviously for Cherie, it's for her to believe in herself as a cyclist, but also the same self-belief applies to her in her everyday life. So Cherie, are you happy that we just jump right into this very exciting topic this afternoon?
Yes, let's get started.
Okay. So the first question I want to ask you is, how important is the power of believing in yourself for you?
Yeah, well, for me, it's a huge process to learn, because you have the positive and the negatives. But when you have the positive self-belief in yourself, it's this really great bridge to either to achieving the goals that you want to achieve. And yeah, it just gives you the confidence and the ability to just keep going and keep positive and happy. And yeah, it's a very powerful tool, especially for me in the sports of cycling. When I believe in myself, the magic happens and the flow comes.
Brilliant. Can you give us an example of maybe a race where that did happen to you, where there was a positive belief?
Yeah, there was one of my favorite races that I enjoy is Novo Mesto na Morav. It's a World Cup in Czech Republic. And the Friday we have the short track, which is a 20-minute race. And for me, that's usually not my strength. And I was really nervous and I'm thinking, shucks, this is just going to be like a time trial race. And I managed to calm the nerves down and be like, you know what? I've got nothing to lose. I'm just going to go give my best. And it was amazing. It was so cool. I almost had to pinch myself because I was like racing in the front group with the girls. And I'm like, shucks, I can actually do this. And it was just like Heiko said, I was just so focused. Like he couldn't even distract me or anything if you needed a bottle or just cheering on the side. I just kept going. And so that power of positive believing was really, really cool. And then in the same race, I had the negative belief of I was like, shucks, I've only got 3 more laps. I've got 3 more laps. I don't think I'm going to make it. And that was a turning point in the race, from going so positive, being in the bunch, being in the front, to thinking, I don't think I'm going to make it. My race went backwards. And those last 3 laps, I finished, but I wasn't in the top 20 where you need to be for a good start for the Sunday's race. So that just showed me in the one race, when I kept that positivity going, how powerful it was and how amazing tool it is to achieve what you want to achieve. And it took me in the direction I needed to be. But unfortunately, that negative belief overpowered it in the end. So it was frustrating it happened, but it was great that it did, because it showed me what positivity and believing in myself can do.
I mean, that's an amazing example of the power. That, if you had managed to stay on that high and actually not been frightened because you were in the lead bunch, and then immediately start self-doubt, and I won't be able to do it, and I won't be able to keep up with them for another 3 laps or whatever, it would have been so interesting to see where you would have ended. But lovely example, cool. Lovely example. And I think that's really what we are speaking about with regards to your sport, but also to your life. What you start believing will really affect your behavior and how you're doing things. So
true.
My next question, Cherie, is how has working with these beliefs, both the positive and the limiting ones, how has it affected your approach to training and to racing?
It's kind of shown me like how many negative beliefs like I have had, and how it has affected the racing, and how I was like thinking, I'm just not good enough. I don't believe in myself. And kind of this time, like it's really been a odd time, and not having races has been frustrating. But it's kind of giving me that time to learn and grow and to believe in myself again, and to turn these negative beliefs around into positives. And I've seen it in the training, like it's been going really, really amazing. I haven't limited myself and thinking, oh no, like I need to only reach these power. Okay, I'm getting there. I've let myself push past that, and I've kind of been able to have the time and to push the limit and see where it can go, and to see the belief in, sorry, I lost a bit of a track there. Let me start again. Yeah, in the training, it's really, really helped, because it's shown me that like when I believe in myself and I go do those intervals, it's like I can actually really do it. And not having the races kind of has given me that time to just nurture those positive beliefs and not let those negative beliefs come in. So I haven't been able to see it on the races so much this year. Well, I've done 2 and it has worked, showing the positive side. But yeah, it's one of these things that I've been working continuously at. And yeah.
So just to interrupt, sorry, when you say you've been working continuously, is it that you have been working on limiting the effect that those negative beliefs have on you? Or has it more been that you've been trying to build the positive belief of, I can do this? Or is it a combination of both?
I think it's a combination of both. What I have realized is that even though I've had this tool for so long, when I actually look back at my notes, I haven't really applied it as much as I should. Like I've let those negative thoughts filtrate too much in, and then I feed those negative thoughts, and it just becomes that belief. And then I'm like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not going to do well. Like I will never be up there. And so this time's kind of giving me to see those negative beliefs and actually be like, no, I'm not going to ponder on that. I'm going to turn it into a positive and just show my self-worth and be confident within myself. So that's definitely helped on that side.
I'd like to just add here with a story that happened many years ago, where there was a Russian weightlifter, international, and all the very academic people, like the medical doctors and the people who were doing research into the physical abilities of the bodies in Russia, they had said, and I forget the exact weight that he lifted, but let's say that the doctors had said that it was impossible to lift more than, let's say, 200 kilograms. And this weightlifter trained hard, and he never managed to lift more than 200. And one day in practice, his coach said to him, because he put the weights onto the end of the barbell, so he said, okay, well now, so we at 190, and now we're at 195. Let's see how we go with 195. But in actual fact, he had put on more than 200. Okay. So the weightlifter always believed that he could only lift up to 200. When he believed that he was still doing 195, he lifted it fully, and in fact, it was over the 200. So it shows there that because he believed he couldn't lift over the 200, that was where his level was. He couldn't go above that. And so that shows the power of belief, again, in a very measurable way. And automatically we limit ourselves with what we think we can do. Instead of saying, I'm not going to put a number or a placing or a speed or a power number, whatever it may be. I'm not going to put a number on it. How about if I just change it to, I'm going to just give it more than my best shot today, so that you're not limiting your behavior by a certain level. So, and I think that's also what you were saying.
Yeah, it's so powerful. Like, it's frustrating at the same time, because I feel like, knowing that I've had this tool for so long and I haven't really applied it, and I've fed those negative thoughts too much, it's kind of like, well, if I only like gave that beforehand, or if I only did this before, and then I actually need to even stop myself there and be like, yeah, if only I could have done this, but I didn't. And now I need to just have that stop sign and being like, could have, should have, would have. Now I need to move on and need to use the time I have and just go through that process and just stop those negative thoughts. It's crazy, because it's like, yeah, there's times where it's like, I think I've let a lot of what other people think and my assumptions of what other people think filter those negative beliefs. So like, I've had an experience where it's like, when you do stage races, you always need a team. And one manager was looking for riders, and he kind of said like, no, sorry, I'm not the rider they're looking for. So I'm like, okay, shucks, I'm just not good enough. People don't see me as one of the top riders. And I let that thought kind of like filtrate. I'll be like, okay, well, I'll never be at this certain level how these people perceive me to be. So it's just, I'm just not good enough. And then another thing can filtrate through where, when I used to when I used to photograph, like in the evenings at stage races, like you get all the crew and they'll talk about the riders, or like talk about like people going through sponsorships and stuff. And it's kind of like, I heard those people talk about these other riders and how like they are the best critiques out there. They know what the people should do. And I think those conversations kind of linked into what I assume people always think. And then I created more negative thoughts in that. And it's just been like an ongoing process of being like, well, now I don't even have the results. So like, am I really good enough? Like, the last 2 world championships I've done, like the one in Switzerland, in practice, I concussed myself. So during the race, it was kind of like hard to push myself, especially with all the noise around. And then I didn't have a good race. So I was like, oh, now I've let my country down. And then like the next one was in Canada, and like that didn't go well too. So yeah, it's kind of like, I think I've had so many things that didn't work to what I think should work, or what people worked. So then I was like, okay, well, I'm not good enough. Like, why am I even trying?
Okay, so can I just stop you? Sorry, can I just stop you there?
No, please.
Okay. I think the things that you are saying are so relevant, because what you said is with when the people said, no, you're not the rider we're looking for, you assumed that they meant all sorts of things, that you were not good enough and blah, 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 blah. But did it ever cross your mind that maybe that wasn't what they were thinking at all? Maybe it's, you're not the rider we're looking for, Cherie, because you are a gorgeous blonde young girl. And actually what we're looking for is a beefy man. So that's why you're not fitting the profile, or, you know, similar. But immediately we assume we know the intention behind the comments. And maybe most of the time, our assumptions are wrong. And we take that as fact and then beat ourselves up with it. So I think that one of the important things is to realize that we need to believe in ourselves. We know our training, we know our coach, we know how we're feeling, and what other people have to say, we're not going to allow that to affect what we are believing, because we are actually a specialist in ourselves, if you know what I mean. Other people don't know about us necessarily.
Yeah. I think it's been like my biggest downfall is that, like, assuming too much what other people think. And obviously with the results not going so well, it's kind of fed that negative belief. And then like when you, like the one race I did in Andalusia, the one stage I just had one of those days where it was just like I was in the flow. I didn't worry about what other people thought. I was like, you know what? I've got this. Today's going to be my day, and I can stick with the top girls as much as I can. And I did. And then next minute I was like, I didn't even worry about sticking with some of those girls. I was like, you know what? I need to catch some other girls, and I need to like just focus on my own flow. And that was amazing when I believed in myself, and I was like, oh, this is just so cool. And then I have one of the girls come up to me and was like, yo, you're really strong yesterday. And I was like, yeah, because I just focused on my own rhythm and my own race. And it's kind of like, I think that's been a limiting factor in that I've also caught myself maybe doing it to like some other girls who have been around, like in racing, in that you at this level, you think that you can do well like amongst these girls, and then they think they can also do well, but they're better or whatever. And then if they're racing with you, they're like, oh no, my race didn't go well. Like I had such a bad race. And there you think that you probably had the race of your life. And like they're saying, no, they had a mechanical and they could have done better. And you're like, oh, like it's just,
I thought it was really good.
Because they had a mechanical, and I thought it was like, had a really good day. And then, so that's kind of also taught me is not to measure myself against others, and not measure my performance against other riders, especially on a day, because everyone's got their own journey and they've got their own rhythm that they go to in that journey. So it's kind of like I'm learning slowly and learning with the process to not base my performance on other people's results.
Yeah.
It's based my performance on my own results, and not let other people's beliefs limit me, because I know the capability I have. And I think that's what's really limited me over these years, is like I've assumed too much what other people think. I've let those other riders' thoughts get into my head, instead of being like, here's my amazing structure. Here's all my friends that like believe in me, my family, my coach. Like I let too much of the negative get in, instead of being like, well, I've got the support structure. Whether I do great or not, these people love me and they believe in me. So with them believing me, it kind of helps me believe in myself. But when I don't believe in myself, the people who are not in that structure, why should I expect them to believe in me? Because I don't even believe in myself. So it's kind of, it's just shows like the power of belief, and just on the positive side, how it can just drive you to that end result or that process that you want to achieve on a positive side.
Now, I think you're hitting the nail on the head there, Cherie. It really is a question of the fact that many of us limit ourselves unknowingly by just thinking, oh, we're not sure that we can do that, instead of saying, well, let's give it a whirl, let's give it a bash, and let's just see, got nothing to lose. So I think also our beliefs are very closely linked to our ability to withstand pressure, like particularly when you're racing. You know, there are lots of pressures, and there is sponsorship, and there's a lot riding on the results and that kind of thing. So, we can't pretend that it's not happening. It is happening. But if we can kind of counteract the stress of the race with that belief of, I can do this, I think it makes a huge difference to how you are, and how easily you can get into the flow, because that's really what we're after. So I would also like to ask Cherie, because we've always said how all the skills that we teach for helping you in your cycling can also apply to life. So how has working with these beliefs, how has it affected the way you live in your life, if at all?
Yeah, I think it's been a huge factor, because like when I look at myself and I look at when I was back in school, I kind of see myself as a very positive person, but there seemed to have been that like a shift. And one of the situations where I can remember is in small little town where my school was. There was like a hardware store. We went in there with my mom, and it's obviously in matric, so it was like coming to the end. And the lady there said to me, she's like, well, the cashier, she's like, okay, what are you wanting to do, or what are you going to study? And I was like, well, I'm going to study photography and design. And she's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, can you make a career out of it? Like, I do photography as a hobby. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm going to give it a shot, kind of thing. And I don't know if she kind of had this intended to kind of hurt me, but the next thing, like she said, she's like, oh yeah, well, like my son's studying actuarial science. And I was like, kind of like, cool, great for your son. Like, it kind of made me feel like, okay, well, studying photography now, I'm like just incompetent and I'm stupid and I'm not like doing this degree that people think should be done. And yeah, it's when I look at that comment and I kind of see like through a whole lot of other situations, I've kind of like had to.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like doing photography, I've always had to explain myself like, yeah, I'm doing this as a career. And people are like, oh, well, it's just my hobby. Or it's like, oh, I'm an engineer and I do just photography on the side. And I'm like, well, you know what? What I've learned now with the beliefs that we've worked through is that it's not necessarily like what people perceive as like a good thing to do. It's like, I do photography because I love it. It creates that sense of purpose for me. And like, I'm creating memories and stories for people out there forever. And it's like, I'm able to tell stories in ways that words cannot describe it. So it's kind of like when I start the photography, I get lost in it. And then I realize, well, why do I have to explain myself to people? It's kind of like I've limited my beliefs and what I'm wanting to do and what career and choice I've done because of what others have said. And I was like, you know what? Let me turn the way I think about it. And it actually doesn't matter, because if you're doing what you love, like, and have that confidence, it's powerful. And it's been hard and it's been an ongoing process, but I'm learning slowly. And I think going from photography to cycling, it's kind of like, it gave me something to change. And like cycling was like a good distraction for me maybe. And it was a good like workshop together. But like now that I've seen the tool that both of them have given me, and I've realized how negative I have become, it's frustrating that I didn't get myself out of the process sooner, especially because like we've been working so well together and I've always had these tools. And like, it's almost like now I've come to a stage where I've almost, how can I say it, like matured within myself. And I'm like now able to apply the tools better because I've got a better understanding of it.
I think that's very relevant. There were two things I wanted to comment on. The first is, when people make criticisms of what we're doing or what our careers are, whatever it may be, what do they actually know about me? And so that's always something. Oh, like, so they've made that comment. What do they actually know? Do they know a lot or don't they? They probably don't know a lot about me, and that's actually just their opinion that actuarial science is possibly better than photography. That's their opinion, but that's not my opinion. But what we do is we take their opinion and we make it our belief as well, which we should try not to do. So it comes back to that whole thing of we actually are giving too much weight to other people's opinions and criticisms, when actually what we need to concentrate on is what do we think. And if we are passionate about photography, then it doesn't matter what they think, because we're going to go with it. We're going to go with the photography. So, I would also like to ask you a question about with working with these beliefs. Is it something that can happen quite suddenly, where suddenly it's like a big shift and you go from one to the other? Or is it more of a process that you kind of are just working with it, and every day you are getting closer and closer to where you want to be regarding particularly the positive beliefs?
I definitely think it's the second one, where it's like it's a complete process. You can have days where it's like you think, great, I've managed to stop these negative beliefs. I've all of a sudden like had this belief, it's been like, okay, well, I'm not good enough. I'm not going to make the top 20 in cycling. And I'll be like, whoa, stop. Like, why do you believe this? And what's stopping you? And then it's like, well, what's the positive? Like, why base it on results? Like, why not turn it and be like, well, today I'm going to give it the best shot I can. And then that just drives you forward. And that confidence is just helps you with that belief to just feed on the positive side. And you have days where it's like you can't control those negative thoughts. And it's like, oh, it's so frustrating. I'm just not getting over it. Like, it just keeps on coming and coming. And then it's like, sometimes it's okay. You can't be so hard on yourself when you have those days. It's a process I've been learning, because I think it's like, I want to perfect things too much. I want to just get it right. And then I lead to the procrastination because I'm like not doing it. And instead of being like, okay, let me sit down. What's stopping me? What's hindering me? Is there a negative side? Okay, let's address it. How can I turn it into a positive? So just to sum it up, it's basically like taking that negative, having that stop sign, and turning it into a positive light. And that process is an ongoing process, and it will come in. I might get it right in the cycling, and then it's like the photography I've got to work in, or it's just a general day life where it's like I'm going to the store and like need to try and learn German or speak German because I'm in a country where I don't speak it. I'm like, well, I'm just not good enough. I don't do languages well. Like it takes me a long time. And then it's like, I should be, instead of being like, oh no, I just can't learn German because I'm bad at learning languages. I'd be like, well, stop. Like, okay, it takes me longer to learn German because I find language is harder, but I know I can overcome it. So it's always turning it into the positive.
The opposite positive. So you have a negative thought, you put the stop sign up to say, okay, I'm not thinking that anymore. What is the opposite positive? So instead of I can't learn this language, it's I can learn this language, or I am going to be able to do it. And yeah, you might have to put provisos there. It might take me a bit longer, but that's okay, because that's still a very positive. It's saying I can do this rather than I can't do this. So
yeah, it's a process that I'm still working on, and I'll continuously be working on. And it's one of those things where it's like, if I don't feel good enough about it, I need to be like, well, it's not that I'm not good enough. This is as good as I'm going to be now, but I can work better.
Yeah.
And I just work harder, and it gives that motivation.
Absolutely. And so I'm going to ask my final question, Cherie, and then while you're thinking about it, I just want to maybe talk about how people can contact us. But so my final question, Cherie, is there anything else you think it's really important to say to cyclists out there, and maybe not even sportsmen? There might be other people who are just normal people like I am that are listening to this. Is there anything particular you would like to tell them? And while you're thinking about it, if you would like to contact Cherie, how's the best way, Cherie, for them to contact you?
Best way is Cherie Redecker on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. And they can send me a message and I'll get back to them as soon as I can.
Okay, brilliant. So now you can think about the answer to the last question. And should you want any further information, you can contact me also on Facebook, Cherie Forsyth Coaching. My YouTube channel is Cherie Forsyth. You can send me an email on cherieforsyth@gmail.com. That's spelled CHERRI @gmail.com, and we'll do our best to help you. So back to the final question. Cherie, anything else you'd like to add?
Just to let the people know, like, it is a process, and tapping into the power beliefs and like just believing in yourself is such a positive tool that it will help you with the confidence out there. It will just give you that sense of courage. So I just don't put those limits on yourself and work at it continuously. Be consistent at it. And yeah, just believe in yourself and you'll bridge that gap to where you want to go next.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, as always, Cherie, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts. It's been very generous of you.
Thank you so much, Cherie. I really enjoy these chats, and I hope other people found it as helpful as I found it, and I look forward to the next one.
And if you have found this valuable, please feel free to share it to others, with others, so that we can have more of the world believing in themselves.
Definitely.